Recordings in progress, y'all. We are doing big things. I'm very impressed with our collaborative efforts here. Now I'm going to go ahead and let our community members into the webinar. And I will give y'all a heads up as they start popping in as well. Usually folks are very diligent about start times. So at 4 o'clock is when we see everybody like, okay, game set point, let's rock and roll. So have either of y'all ever visited South Carolina?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most recently, I went to, what's it called? Lake Kiowa. Is that right? Huge
Yeah.
lake. Yeah, gorgeous.
Very cool. Very cool. I am very much obsessed with both Colorado and DC. They are two of my favorite places to visit. So I'm very jealous. I'm wondering if y'all's weather is quite as lovely as ours is today. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty beautiful here.
Awesome. So we've got some folks going ahead and joining us, which is very exciting. We're very grateful to have everybody popping in even a little bit early. That definitely lets us know that we're eager to engage around this content area, and or they know how wonderful you both are and are just both very excited to have y'all here today.
We're very excited to be here.
Awesome. Make sure that our polls are going to poll appropriately. Okay. A few more folks joining us. Welcome, welcome everyone. We're excited to have y'all here with us. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping and then get started right at 4 o'clock because I know we've got a lot of incredible ground to cover from both Dr. Anthony and from Miss Jessica Smith. So it is officially 4 o'clock. Everyone get excited and get ready for a wonderful monthly webinar. On behalf of the Southeastern School Behavioral Health Community and the Behavioral Alliance of South Carolina, we would like to welcome each and every one of you to this month's national webinar. For those of you that are live streaming with us on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. We're very grateful to have y'all here. And for those of you that may be watching on our YouTube archive, we're grateful that you are accessing this resource and hopefully sharing with your community as well. So before we get started, we'll do just a little bit of housekeeping so we can all be actively engaged today, as well as get a general feel for who we have here with us. We do offer CEUs for today's live webinar. In order to obtain those CEUs, please participate in our pre and post survey poll. And then you can email BASC, B-A-S-C, at mailbox.sc.edu. Additionally, we do request that for today, given the amount of incredible content that we are going to be going through with our lovely presenters, please put all of your questions in the chat. We are going to field them at the end of our presentation. If you are joining us on Facebook, this is one of my favorite things to do. Please put your comments or questions down below, and I will be sure to field them to our presenters as well. If you have any compassionate curiosities as a YouTube watcher, you can always reach out to us at basc@mailbox.sc.edu, and we will work to be able to answer any of your questions or connect you all. So we have with us today Dr. Laura Anthony from the Colorado School of Medicine, as well as Jessica Smith, who is a research assistant at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so very much to the both of y'all for being here with us today. And I'm going to launch our pre-survey. I hope that everyone that is participating with us today will engage in this poll. And while I'm doing that, Dr. Anthony, if you would like to go ahead and start sharing your screen and maybe share a little bit more about yourself, and we'll turn it right on over to y'all.
Great. How's that look?
Let's see here. Oh, that looks beautiful.
You can probably see the pre-survey poll though. I'm going to close that now. How's that? Looking better. So here you see where I hang out, or at least I used to hang out back in the days when I went to work. If you look off in the distance there, those are mountains that we have a nice view of if you go up to the upper floors. I'm a professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, and I am also at Children's Hospital of Colorado. We're together on the same campus, so we're quite friendly. And I'm going to be talking to you today about Unstuck and On Target, which is an executive function intervention, and particularly about some online parent resources that you can use to share with your families at home, or if you're parents, then hopefully I'm speaking directly to you.
And Dr. Anthony, to give you an idea of who, and Jessica as well,
Yeah.
to give you an idea of who we've got in the room with us today. We've got a number of mental health professionals. We've got some students, district personnel, as well as state policymakers. So we've got a great gamut. We've also got some educators here with us. And I imagine that of those, many of them are also parents. So just wanted to share that little tidbit with y'all, and I will go ahead and turn myself back into an apple.
Great. So I'm talking to you today as a researcher and a clinical psychologist and an intervention developer, but I am also a parent. And one of our altogether 4 children is my eldest son, who has pretty serious ADHD. So I kind of grew my passion with this topic of executive functioning along with raising my son. So I can put on both hats, either or. For disclosures, I do get royalties from all of the Unstuck and On Target books, but part of what most of the things, all the online resources that I'm going to be talking about today, one is free, another there is a charge for, but none of that money comes to us. It all stays at the place who produced it. We do have some grant funding to acknowledge, and those that are in bold here, past and current, are the ones that are most related to the things that we're talking about today. So as a quick overview of what executive functions are, they are, a brain skill that is the last thing to develop in the brain. So you don't really finish, it's up here in the front of the brain. You don't finish developing your frontal lobe, which is related to these EF skills, until your mid-20s or sometimes even 30. So you have a long time to really help kids and teens and even young adults build these skills that by the time you're my age at 53, they're just starting to go back down again. But anyway, some of you may not have to worry about that yet. So EF skills in general, we can think of as kind of the brain's ability to regulate almost everything, sort of thought and behavior wise. And we generally break it up into these skills that are here in this little brain: organization, planning, self-monitoring, which are the more only cognitive skills. And then emotional control and flexibility are things that are particularly targeted and somewhat with organization and planning by the things that we're going to be talking about today. What can happen when EF skills are not developing completely, on target, is you can have some associated challenges. And what that looks like can sometimes be hard to pin down or automatically know that that's an executive functioning skill. Challenges with EF are really common in neurodevelopmental disorders like ADHD and autism, and they can look like, just for a few quick examples, trouble transitioning from going from one thing to another, staying calm when faced with a challenge, or thinking flexibly or keeping an open mind. And so taking those challenges into account, we have developed actually a whole suite of resources that are generally called Unstuck and On Target. This is our elementary school version. We do have other versions that are coming out that are developed and tested, but will be out next year. I'm not going to talk about those today, but I'd be happy to come back and talk about them next year once they're out. So it is generally, we conceptualize it as a school and home-based executive function intervention for elementary aged kids. This book that's pictured here on the screen is more around the lesson plans that can be used in school. And they have been, these lessons have been tested and proven in 2 randomized comparative effectiveness trials. Both of those trials included parent trainings. So that was part of why we were inspired to do the things that I'm going to talk about today. We initially developed Unstuck and On Target, the school-based version, with only in kids with autism, and they helped us a lot in figuring out what the content should be like, what they liked, what they didn't like. We changed a lot based on their feedback from those students. And then we had a pilot trial of that intervention, which again was in schools, but it was only for kids on the autism spectrum. And then we had another trial where we wanted to expand it to address disparities in Title I schools. And it was a comparative effectiveness trial that was making the intervention, we adapted the intervention to also work for kids with ADHD. I told you I had a private passion about that. The results in general are strong results for the school-based trials that included the parent training part. And one of the most important parts that we kind of learned about this was how committed the families are. We did expect the schools to be really interested in doing this, as they had volunteered. But the square over here in the bottom left corner, the parents were also surprisingly committed. And I say surprisingly because we had been told, like, you're not going to get a lot of parents and you're not going to get a lot of time from them. It's really hard, particularly with parents who are experiencing multiple stressors. But we had 90% of people over a whole year come back for post-testing, which is unusually high. Really proud of that. And even more surprising is we had 70% of parents in our project attend a live parent training. Now, they were most often in their neighborhood or in their child's school, so they were accessible, but we still were surprised based on our previous review how many people actually came and showed up. It was great. The other thing we learned about families is that not a lot related to how much their kids improved. So IQ for the student was close. That was kind of our closest. That's not a surprise given that these are really cognitive skills. But age didn't matter. Family income didn't matter. That was our biggest surprise, actually. We had predicted that income would matter based on, 70 years of research. So that was a really pleasant surprise, because we were specifically trying to address disparities there. We had a very diverse group of families and schools. So that was really, really wonderful. It was a wonderful surprise. And we found that, in general, we didn't have a lot of biases, and that the intervention, the school-based intervention and the parent training together seemed to be addressing some of those disparities effectively, which is great. The other thing we found out in that big trial was that that parents really felt great about their kids getting some intervention at school. We had kind of expected not such an enthusiastic response. We thought parents would be like, great, this is wonderful, and happy about it, because they were so enthusiastic when they signed up for the study. But we didn't expect to get things like in this data where their strain goes down. So less parents under less strain is definitely a really good thing. And that's important. So we looked at, what was it that was kind of contributing to this reduction in parenting strain? And it was not related to how many parent trainings they attended. It wasn't related to how many worksheets they got, or tips and trick sheets, really, not worksheets, that they got from their kids being in the intervention. It was really just knowing that their kids were getting something at school that also resulted in improved behavior in the classroom. So it was really important. Another thing that was really surprising to us is we went in and we did masked classroom observations. So we knew how much kids were changing, right? How much the students were changing. What we were surprised about was how great parents were at saying how much their kids have changed. So they weren't there for our classroom observations, but those were correlated really high. Parents know what's going on. Not that we didn't think parents knew what was going on. We just were surprised how good they were at that. And I think that probably relates to why their strain went down, having their kids in interventions. So after thinking about how do we, what a powerful effect this has on parents, but how can we reach them better, right? So it's not easy for parents to come in for live parent trainings. So we decided we were going to develop an online parent training, which is called Unstuck here, specifically for parents. So what we did is we, as we were hearing from parents that they liked these in-person trainings, but they also feel like, with the rise and everything being online, that would be a really helpful thing for them. So you don't have to find they didn't have to find childcare if it was online. They didn't have to sit in traffic, which we were doing these around DC. So that was definitely an issue. And hopefully also, I do run, for example, parent training kinds of things in our clinic. But you have to pay for that. So we can use insurance, of course, but that doesn't reach everybody. So thinking about like creating a little more space and access, a little bit less time, and making things cheaper and easier, that was basically our goal. So what we did is worked really hard to create this very individualized online training that we are calling, like I said, Unstuck. We had a lot of stakeholder input and many rounds of that input as we were making it. And thinking about ways like how can we use the online training to its best advantage, which, kind of you can think about parents sort of going through and choosing their own adventure. Like I have difficulties with this and this and this, so I'll skip these parts, and make it more interactive and individualized. So I will tell you a little bit about that. This is what our training looks like. Our online parent training looks like. And it kind of goes, there is an order here, but it is not necessary. The parents can go in any order that they want, to kind of, address the needs that they're having at the moment. And when we have this online training, like what we can't do in person is we can have a bunch of different ways, right? Sorry, please ignore that tech demo thing. That was from a conference. You then sort of have the opportunity to have live demonstrations almost with the video. So that is me and my son, who was in 5th grade at the time. We're going through the feelings target, which really is kind of a concept. You don't have to have the written thing, but can be nice to have a visual in your head. He's now 16, so this was a while ago, but he's really good in it. We also have kind of a slightly more didactic, interactive things. So how do you learn the vocabulary and the words? We try as much as we can to make the words that we're asking people to use just like regular people language. So stuck and unstuck, plan A, plan B, compromise. These are all words that kind of have meaning automatically. And even if you've never heard big deal and little deal, you kind of know what a little deal is just from knowing what a big deal is, right? Oops. And then we have expert interviews. That's Monica Eller-Werner, one of our co-authors. And then especially helpful, or the parents really liked, this is a parent in the center here, and she's talking about using the unstuck techniques in the home with her kids, and you get to see her do that some, which is really cool. And then finally, we have other interactives like this around sensory stuff, like what's distracting and what's helpful. So you can click on it and see, should the radio be on or off? Or it's not a radio, it's somebody's phone playing music, which people don't use radios anymore. And a lot of people use these with their kids. So they would go through this part about the environment with their children, and they really liked that. The other thing in terms of individualization is we had kind of these quizzes, like these magazine quizzes here, where does this sound like your child? What does it? And there are a bunch of questions that are pretty targeted. And as a parent goes through this, they are then building this executive function profile, which has, this is something that you reported was a frequent problem for you and your child, and here's a tip you can do immediately. So it's kind of more targeted advice than the videos and things. So we tried this in a trial where we were comparing the online training to the in-person training. Both groups of parents got the executive functioning challenges book. And then we conceptualized it as a 10-week trial. There were two-hour in-person trainings, and then the online group was designed to be spread across those 10 weeks. And we had, we originally enrolled just under 100 people. We had a lot of parents completed. So we had a very small dropout rate, and this is kind of what they looked like. And what we found was people really attended the in-person trainings well. They really liked it. We didn't get as much attendance or completion, I would say. So they started the online training, but it did take some kind of self-motivation for them to get through it. And so not only 75% completed more than half of the content. Now, again, you don't have to complete all of it, right, for it to work. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of good and bad, kind of depending on how you think about it. Parents in both groups really liked the training, so there wasn't really a difference there. And what we found was, in general, even though parents in the online training didn't complete everything, only 75% completed everything, there was no difference in outcomes, in any outcomes from the in-person training to the online training, which was great news, because that means that whether you're doing it in person or online, everybody gets better. And that was a huge relief. I have to tell you that we found that. So that was what we had hoped. So they said that parents felt less strain, and they also felt like their kids' EF got better, even though this intervention, this training wasn't directed at the kids, it was directed towards the parents. They said that it helped them get their kids to experience fewer difficulties with executive function, which is also really great news. One thing that we did find was a little bit of individualization. So we asked parents what it is that they've used from the training at the end. And you can see in the online group, there's just kind of more stuff there. They agree in number one, plan A, plan B. They really like that, which is great. I highly recommend it for you too. But once you get to like the second and the third, these are all tied. You get just a little bit more variability in what people say they were using, which was kind of great. And then when you ask people what they're going to do in the future, they all agreed they were going to read the book. So what that means is it's great to have a book, but it doesn't mean that people are going to actually read it. That really fits with my life in general. So as we're thinking about this online training, which was taking parents, we're not really sure, but what they reported was took them, about 3 hours or so to go through if they went through everything. The in-person training was about 4 hours. That's still pretty intensive. So we're really happy about having this thing online. But it does work for parents for sure, but we think it probably works for a special kind of parent who is extra motivated to try to address their kids' problems in the home. So it means like if you are the kind of parent who has a child with autism who also has difficulty with emotional control, right? You're going to be more motivated because the problems are slightly more difficult at home, right? You're more motivated to make change. And it was great that we have something to offer those parents. So that is Unstuck. These are our wonderful group of authors, and that is available online. I usually get asked the price, and I meant to look it up. I think it's like $39 for the training for unlimited use. So once you get the access, you have the access forever. Okay, so we figured out that that online parent training is going to work. It was great. We then also got the results of our comparative effectiveness trial that these things work with ADHD as well. And we found out sort of secret agenda that in the groups where we were going and observing in the school, it was not only kids with ADHD or autism or both, kids who have both, it was also other stuff. So any kid with executive function difficulties in a school was kind of in that group. We didn't collect data on those kids, but they were there. and we hope that it helps. So then we got a follow-up pot of money from our funder, PCORI. They created these implementation projects, so not really researchy, but how can you implement the results of your trial? So we were thinking, what would it take next, right? We have some data that, at least with parents, that they are not necessarily opening the book, and even when they're given the book. And I certainly have experience doing that as well as a clinician. I'll buy some books at a conference and then they will sit on my shelf and look pretty. I've also read some books, but I do have I have to admit, I don't always read everything that I buy. So we're thinking about that. How do we get people to open the book and try some of the stuff with kids at school or with their kids at home? And what happens, kind of what happens out there in the real world outside of a research trial. So that's where we get to the implementation of Unstuck in Schools, and that's what we're doing right now. We have a large team around this implementation because it can be pretty tough to get stuff going in schools. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything that you know, and we are in 3 places: University of Maryland at the bottom, Children's National Hospital in DC in the middle, and that's me and my team at the top in Colorado. The rest of the slides that I'm going to present are made, those people who are in the blue boxes, Jessica Smith and Tennyson Dahlman, made the rest of these slides. So just want to acknowledge that even though I'm the one talking, that I didn't even analyze the data. So you're going to hear from a couple of slides from Jessica because she's the one who analyzed the data and helped make the slides. So big team, and we got this project awarded and we got started in May, and then COVID came. So, I'm sorry, May 2019. We're creating an online training, which was great in order to implement our school training. The online training is for schools, not for families. It was going really well. We were working hard on that. And then before we even get through the first year, COVID comes. And I don't have to tell you that COVID is rough. I had hoped, of course, that we were going to be through it by now, but we're not through it, especially I think most of you are in the South, so you're kind of past your second wave as well. But in Colorado, we are definitely not through it. We have a spike and we're about to surpass our previous spike. And especially during lockdown, when schools were closed, parents were then faced with what do they do with their kids at home? How do they keep their, education up? I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So we then had the opportunity to apply for a special pot of money to create resources that relate to our project and can help immediately during COVID. So what we wanted to do was to think about that online parent training, but really boil it down to be much more general, so it applies to all kids, although we conceptualized it for kids with executive functioning difficulties. And we wanted them to be short and quick and pretty simple. We call them basic now. They're basic videos. Most of them are under 3 minutes, and then some of the interview ones are more like 5 minutes, so they're short. And we wanted to get them out as quickly as possible while parents were supporting their kids in COVID. So we created 13 short videos about like what executive functioning is, how do you prevent overload, how do you make a compromise, and then we evaluated those videos. They completed some online surveys, same things that we evaluate in all of our projects. And our purpose was not to only have these resources available during the pandemic. Of course, when we started this, we did hope by the end of the year, as it was a year of support, that we would be done with the whole pandemic thing. And here we are, really not done. So the year has gone by. It was August to August was our project. And we still have some difficulties with parents needing support in the pandemic. But hopefully they will be, at some point we will be beyond the pandemic. And all of the resources were written so that they apply sort of now, but they can also then be, they're free and available on YouTube. But they will also be included for parents to get access to easy training if their kids are getting unstuck and on target at school. So that was kind of our hope, was to serve those two purposes without creating, such a large 3-hour training. So we wanted to see if they worked. We always check to see if what we're doing works, as I'm sure all of you do as well. And so we had 100 families give us feedback in Virginia and Colorado. And then once we figure out whether they work or not, we were hoping for widespread dissemination all across the country. To make sure that the videos worked, we had a lot of stakeholder involvement from our stakeholder advisory board, and that's teachers, we had school administrators, we had parents, and we had an autistic parent, all who are helping us frame those scripts so that they're positive and not scary and helpful and accessible. And they were really, really helpful. So they would review everything multiple times and give input, and we would include that input. And like everything that we do, the stakeholders really make us better. That's what they do. And we didn't want to release anything until we were really sure about that, that things were working well. So then once we had the videos and things developed, we then tried them out with the 100 families, and they gave us another round of feedback, which was really helpful. And then we made those changes as well. So what we ended up with is more videos in English than in Spanish. We have only 5 of the videos in Spanish, and we have 12 videos in English. Based on parent input, we have another video that will be coming out very soon, probably next month at the latest. I think we're pretty close. So, and then now that they are evaluated and we made the changes from all the parents, these are kind of ready to go. The last time I checked, we were nearing on 2,000 views for these videos. So hopefully some of you will also check them out and share them with people who might think that they're helpful. We have a combination, as you can kind of see from the screenshots, of animated videos and then kind of the Ask the Experts, where experts are parents and also the people who wrote Unstuck and wrote the videos. So this is, I want to make sure I have time. Okay, I think we're fine. I can show you quickly an example of one of the videos about preventing overload. So I'm just going to have to transition to YouTube. And
everybody gets upset and overwhelmed at times.
It's time to leave.
No, I won't go. You can't make me.
Time to turn the TV off.
But I'm not finished. I want another cookie.
I said no 3 times. And clean up your room now while I cook dinner.
Sometimes, children get so upset it feels like they're out of control. Nothing you do seems to help or change their behavior. When that happens, your child may be overwhelmed. Both children and adults can get overwhelmed. When there's too much to handle or a specific situation pushes you past your limit, your feelings can just take over. As adults, we might storm out of a room, yell, or slam a door. When children are overwhelmed, they may also yell or storm off. Or they might break something or hit a sibling. When you're overwhelmed, your brain isn't able to slow down and make good choices. It can be hard to talk, you feel stuck, or you may say or do something you regret. When your child is overwhelmed, it's a good idea to stop talking and take a break. Focus on helping yourself and your child feel calm. Try to identify what might have made your child feel overwhelmed. The best way to deal with being overwhelmed is by preventing it. We all have triggers, things that make us feel stressed and overloaded more easily. For example, your child may be easily overwhelmed when he is hungry or when she is in a crowded place. If you notice triggers, you can prepare in advance for them. For example, you can try reducing overload with a favorite toy or giving them something to do. You can also notice your own triggers and plan for them to help avoid getting overwhelmed yourself. We're all more likely to be overwhelmed when we don't know what to expect or when a task feels too hard. Help your child prepare by writing down a checklist of tasks or posting a calendar. Giving them 5-minute warnings or setting a timer can help them end a fun activity without being upset. If you have something planned for the day, keep in mind that our plans don't always go how we expect. Try talking about a backup plan with your child ahead of time, just in case. Check out our other videos for more strategies with real-world examples to make it less likely your child will get overwhelmed. Your child will still get overwhelmed sometimes, because lots of things can make things manageable one day and overwhelming the next. But how we respond, understanding that your child is struggling and not being disobedient, opens the door to preventing problems before they happen and working together.
great. Now, just going to switch back. Sorry, I know it's clunky. YouTube just doesn't love you embedding things in your PowerPoints. So sorry about that transition. So that's an example of one of the videos. Believe it or not, that was under 3 minutes. There's kind of a lot in there. Parents did report that they liked the videos, but they were kind of packed. So the 100 parents were great about saying what they thought would help, and they asked for a sheet with each video. So like just a 1 sheet, and you're seeing one right here, the one that goes with the video that has the stuff written down that they could take with them or stick up on the fridge or tape somewhere so that they can have a little bit of support and reminders to try those strategies. So that was great advice, we thought, from the parents, and we made those, and those support sheets are also free and available through the YouTube links. Okay, so just a little bit about what parents said about the videos. I told you we had about 100 parents, mostly moms, and we had a smaller number of families that spoke Spanish, and we asked them to, we only included families that spoke both English and Spanish, that were bilingual, so that we could have them evaluate the other videos as well. We are hoping to be able to make the rest of the videos in Spanish, but that will take some more money. So, but maybe in the future. And so just a reminder, coming up soon will be Jessica Smith to talk about a couple of the slides, and her partner in working on this data and creating these lovely slides was Tennyson Dahlman. And so first of all, parents said that the videos were very helpful. We didn't have a lot of variation in the helpfulness. They pretty much liked them all. Most parents liked them all. And they felt like the videos were valuable, that they would recommend them to somebody else, and that they helped them see their kids' difficulties in a different light, which was really important. So when you conceptualize kind of executive functioning as being the problem instead of, willful disobedience, a lot can change at home. So it was really great to see. Jessica, are you able to speak up here?
Yes. So we asked caregivers before and after they watched the videos in their entirety about their level of caregiver strain and also about their level of their caregiver competence. And we saw that on average, caregiver strain decreased after watching the videos, which was really exciting for us, especially given the brevity of these videos and how short they are in their entirety. It's a little under 60 minutes of total content. We didn't see that caregiver competence changed significantly. So you can see those averages are pretty level at baseline and at post. And then we also asked them about their child's executive functioning challenges. So we asked how often those challenges were happening on a scale of 1 to 10. And we saw that their challenges decreased in frequency before and after the caregivers had reviewed the videos and had implemented the strategies. And we also saw that the interference, so we asked how much these executive functioning challenges interfered with their daily family life. And we found that that also decreased, which again was really exciting given how short these videos were. And so we were very excited about that. We then asked them about their caregiver knowledge of the topics that we addressed in the videos before and after each video. And then we coded those as either, correct or an incorrect. And we found that after the parents reviewed each video, their caregiver knowledge improved.
Thanks, Jessica. That's great. We also collected direct feedback from the caregivers. They felt like the videos were helpful and made them feel less alone, which is really great, particularly during a pandemic. That's a wonderful thing. They did like when they were short, so we were pretty right on target there as well. And the one in the middle is a quote that a parent saying, like, it's not defiance, it's executive functioning. And then that's a different approach that you take, right? So instead of punishing executive functioning, which doesn't actually help very much, you take a different approach to support and build skills so that there are fewer problems. So we were surprised that they worked. I'm always surprised that anything works though. So that is, I like to be surprised though. So it's a surprise in the right direction. So it says like we were kind of onto something with these little bitty videos, and they were helpful to parents. And now we are doing that larger implementation trial where we created a detailed online training for school personnel. And we'll be trying that, just as a reminder, in those 200 schools in Colorado and Virginia. And we are including the parent videos in that training, and also the little sheets that people who are doing Unstuck and On Target at school can give out to parents to support those skills. So they're free. They also get a little support sheet from the online videos, but also from the group in school. And those parent support sheets, it's like, this is what your child did today, ask them to tell you about this thing, or try to use these words. So there's no homework. They're not homework sheets. Turns out kids didn't like it when they were homework sheets, so we probably could have figured that one out ourselves, but we needed to listen to the kids for that. But those home practice sheets, we call them, are available for free in both English and Spanish for the whole curriculum. So embedding those supports, and we'll find out how they work this school year. So if you want to learn more about any of the other things Unstuck that I mentioned, sort of more like the school-based lesson plans, you can go to our website there. That's that top website, and there's a lot of free videos and resources on there, so nothing costs any money. And then at the bottom, there are also great trainings, many of them free, at the University of Maryland's Institute for Innovation and Implementation. So if there's something else, like you need to get some CE credits online, that's a really great resource for you. And now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you all again, and we can check on the chat to see if there's any questions.
Y'all, thank you so very much. I'm going to give folks just a moment here to put any additional questions into the chat. I will also go ahead and just populate our post-survey poll. So we've got from one of our attendees today, what is your youngest age that these would be appropriate for?
Yeah, so good question. The parent videos, I would say, we created them with kind of elementary school in mind, but of course that's really big range. You know, it's kindergarten to 5th grade. And we have under a development trial, a preschool version of Unstuck and On Target, which we're very excited about. People have been really asking for this, which is awesome. I think, you know, with certain kids and certain parents, you could go younger with many of these videos. I think the bigger risk is actually going older. So we designed Unstuck and On Target, the elementary school version, for students with at least kind of a 7-year-old language. That is how we wrote it, because it is kind of language based. So that would be kind of our bottom. And then Courtney is asking for exclusionary criteria. So I really think that we can include most kids. And what we do when I'm in the clinic is a little bit different than using Unstuck exactly how it was designed. So we do the groups pretty much like they were designed in a clinic, but then there are kids where I would say this exclusionary criteria does kind of apply, schools or anywhere that just cannot tolerate being in a group and are so disruptive that you can't get through the content. So that's kind of the biggest exclusionary criteria. So we have generally said we expect students to be able to participate in class. And if they can participate in class, then they can probably participate in group. When we've seen real world implementation, we kind of generally conceptualize this as a tier 2 intervention when it's done in schools. And I'm assuming you're asking me about the school intervention because we don't really have exclusionary criteria for parent videos. I say, try them, look at them, they're free. And if there's some little pearl there, then that's great. That's all we're wanting. So we will sometimes do these skills individually first with those kids. And out there in the real world, we have also seen schools do whole classroom approaches, pulling out a few lessons for kindergartners for every kindergartner, for example. I've seen that. I was amazed. It actually worked. Like the kids really got it. And we have some of those videos from those kids actually in the online training that we're creating because that teacher was so brilliant. And we have also seen it, I have personally seen it implemented in special ed classrooms. So where kids who are maybe more impaired or need more language support, but they got effectiveness just like kind of the tier 2 pullout groups did. So a little bit it depends on the particular kids and a little bit on the creativity of the implementer sometimes, especially when it's going individual. But like in that special ed class, they were doing it exactly as designed, and the kids were all in. It was really wonderful to see. But it hasn't been tested there, I will just say.
I love your surprise and excitement around like the effectiveness of these awesome resources. Personally, as an attendee today and a participant, I thought it was pretty powerful to hear that reframe and that shift in parent perspective between defiance and executive functioning. I mean, that's such a critical shift, and that allows you to increase your empathic response in such an awesome way. Major testament to the work they're doing, and that it's user friendly and in bite-sized portions. We know our parents and our educators are overwhelmed, and so it's nice when you've got those resources at your fingertips, and especially when they're accessible and free, and we may as well go ahead and give them a try. I have to selfishly say that I remember at the very beginning of your presentation, you're saying that maybe you would come back next year and share with us your continued efforts around development of Unstuck and some of the implementation that you all are endeavoring upon right now. We would be over the moon to be able to have a part 2 follow-up to this.
Can I just say what if you let me come back, what I will tell you is how well the online training worked for school professionals, and just remind you that we got those paid for up front so that we could make them free, which is really cool. We're really, really excited about that. It is possible that down the road, when we run out of money, we may need to charge for this continuing ed credits only, but that generally has been about $20. So it's not a huge expense, but we would love for people to use this stuff since we created it. So I would love to come back.
Well, we will make sure to share all of the links on our YouTube video so that folks that are watching this in the future can access it. We'll go back on the Facebook and make sure that everybody that joined us today, and we did have a number of viewers on the Facebook, which is awesome. I love seeing, multi-layered engagement. We appreciate everyone that was in the room with us today. Jessica, Laura, this was fantastic, incredible research, and just a really valuable topic area. So we are thankful for you all. We've got additional thank yous coming in the chat. We had wonderful folks represented from all different states across the nation. And on behalf of the South Carolina School Behavioral Health community, as well as BASC, we want to say thank you so much. And we also want to give a gentle reminder to you all as presenters, as well as you all as participants today on Facebook or on this webinar, that we do have the upcoming 2022 Southeastern School Behavioral Health Conference, and we are accepting proposals right now, and we would love to have you all submit your proposals, come as attendees, get to network and connect with each other. It will be hybrid again this year, but we are going to have a much more robust in-person option, getting back to hopefully a little bit more normalcy, but it was very successful in 2021. So we invite all of you on our call today to come be present and participate, and certainly Laura, Jessica, and others, all of the wonderful humans that contributed to y'all's work. We would love to see y'all at the conference as well. So on to some self-care for the remainder of the evening. If you would like your CEUs, please reach out to us at basc@mailbox.sc.edu. And again, mountains of gratitude and thank you to both of you and to everyone that joined us today. Y'all have a great evening. Self-care, self-care, self-care.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us. And thank you all of you for listening.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. Be well. Bye now.
Bye.